Good morning. We're learning a mimer that we already started, probably on Sunday. Mimer called Uvachamisha Asar Yom. Started on Sunday?
Yeah, we couldn't start yesterday.
No, but maybe we started on Friday.
No.
Okay, so
It was about Sukkot, but it was connected to Yom
yeah,
Kippur.
so mimer on Sukkot was said in 1970. So on the second day of Sukkot, and it speaks about the pasuk in the Torah, Parshas Pinchas, chapter 29, verse 12. It says in the Torah about this Yom Tov, about the Chag HaSukkos. So it says, Uvachamisha Asar Yom, on the 15th day, LaChodesh HaShvi, the 7th month. V'Bakosu. So it explains over there what is the inyan of the Chag, the Yom Tov, and the details of the korbanos that were brought on that day. And the Maimon would discuss a question that was asked in the Zohar between Rabbi Yossi. Rabbi Yossi is asking Rabbi Abba. So the question was, what are the 15 days, this 15 days that the Torah is speaking about, Chamisha Asar Yom? What are they talking about? So that was his meaning. What is the teichen, the substance of those 15 days? So what was the answer of Rabbi Abba to Rabbi Yossi? He told them, come and see whether you're dealing with the upstairs, the higher worlds, or the lower worlds. There's order. Whatever is happening has a system, has a way of a structure of how things are being done, whether we're dealing with an arousal from above that was initiated from arousal from below, or vice versa. There's an order. And then the Rebbe brings the Baal Shem Tov. And then later the Mizritcher Maggid, and later the Alter Rebbe, Tzemach Tzedek.
Through everybody.
So, but he's going through for all the Rebbes, that obviously it's connected to this mimer. So connected to this statement about the similarity and the order that exists between the higher and lower world. So the statement of Baal Shem Tov was about the discussion in the Zohar on the higher worlds, or have a similar functionality like the lower world. So he writes on the verse in the book of Bereshis where it says, Ki b'tzelem Elokim asa es Adam, that a man was created with the image of God, has a godly image, and he has 10 powers that are compared to the 10 supernal manifestations. What is the similarity between them? That he has the power to arouse them. He has the power to awaken them. So according to his awakening down here below, that would be the response above. And this is known by the teaching of the Baal Shem Tov on the pasuk, Hashem tzilcho. Hashem is your shadow. The Hashem, so to speak, is your shadow. Same way that your shadow turns to wherever you're turning. Wherever you go, your shadow goes with you. Your awakening creates an awakening from above. Then he brings the interpretation of the Mizritcha Magid, the successor of the Baal Shem Tov, where it says, it brings another pasuk in Parshas Achri, where it says, "Ushmartem es chokoisai," observe my commandment, my statutes. Asher yaseh isam odom v'chai b'hem. That's you. You should do them and live with them, or live by them. That the Mizritcha Magid says that through the fulfillment of the commandment, we are able to draw and add vitality in the mitzvahs themselves. Then he brings the Alter Rebbe, teaching that he heard from the Mizritcha Magid on the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, where famous teaching where it says, Da, you should know what is above you. The Mishnah over there goes to enumerate, there's an eye that see, an ear that hear. The pasuk says, Da malamala mimcho. You should know what is above you. But the Mizritcha Magid explains it, as Alter Rebbe brings it, that all the inyanim, everything that happens from above, is mimcho, is because of you. Meaning, you generate everything that happens from above. Your conduct, your activities has an impact and are going to create a reciprocation according to that. So people would say, oh, this happened, this happened, this happened. Everything is happening. It's not happening for nothing. According to the Mizritcha Magid, anything that happens is mirroring your activities. Da malamailo, you should know that everything that comes from lamailo, from above, is mimcho, is because of your actions. It's a completely different interpretation than saying you should know that there is something above you. Knowing something above you may be creating fear. Mishnah is telling you, you should know, therefore you should be fearful. There's a camera watching.
Right.
But according to Mizritcha Magid, everything that happens, you're generating, you're doing, everything that comes from above is mimcha, is because of you, is your activities. So then it's a sense of responsibility. It's a completely different kind of, I would say, completely different kind of outcome that you could have, knowing that you can generate whatever you want, whatever you choose. You can generate positivity by doing positive things, and God forbid the opposite. So after this whole Akdama, the Rebbe started speaking about the actual statement in the Zohar about the 15th day. The Torah says the 15th day on the 7th month, which we're coming to on Friday, right?
Were you going to do Crystal Valley after me? Sorry.
So comes after we know that the 15th come after the 10th, after Yom Kippur. What is the inyan of Yom Kippur? We said that Kabbalistically, Yom Kippur is elevation of Sfiras HaMalchus, the 7th or the 10th Sephira from the top is Malchus, and there is elevation of Malchus. Malchus being uplifted, raised, elevated to a higher level. It says any way you're counting Malchus, if you're counting from the top is the last, if you're counting from the bottom is the highest one. The Sefira Asiris is speaking about the 10th Sefira. 10th Sefira could be from Chochmah to Malchus, or from Malchus to Keser. So, and this is all associated with the number 10. because Yom Kippur falls on the 10th of the month. So, because it tells us that the 10th of the month deals with Malchus. Malchus is also the 10th Sephirah. So, when it comes to Yom Kippur, there's Binyan Malchus. We said this concept is also associated with Rosh Hashanah in general. That Hashem wants to, that our avodah, our service of what we need to accomplish in Rosh Hashanah is to re-arouse Hashem's rotzin to be our king, be the king, to have the desire to be the king. But after there's the awakening of the rotzin, awakening of this desire to be the king, then comes Yom Kippur. And Yom Kippur is about adding illumination into Malchus. It says, how is it happening? So it says there are 5 Chassidim. The supernal attributes we know that are called small face. Right? Supernal attribute Chesed all the way to Malchus, it's called Zeranpi. Where is the primary Ashpah in the Midos? Is in Chesed. Chesed itself is divided into 5. That's why there's 5 Chasodim. And remember, with the hands, you can see it on the hand that has 5 fingers. The hand is the one that gives. It has 5 fingers representing 5 levels of Chesed, 5 Chasodim. The Alter Rebbe discusses it in his in the Maimers that were printed in the Siddur. In his Siddur, a book with a Siddur with Marmorim, and over there it speaks about this concept of Chamisha Chasodim, Chamisha Yomin. So what is the inyan of Sukkot? The inner concept of Sukkot? That through the Avodah down here, through our work in this world, will arouse everything that needs to be awakened in the level of the kingship, in Malku itself. And in base, Ois base, it goes into this up to now, we just went through Ois Aleph. Ois base, the second part, he writes, we still have to understand, in general, that the awakening from below is happening through the person down here. Seemingly, it's not understood. The higher and lower, the Zohar says that they're so far apart from each other, and therefore, why is there a connection between them? And then he goes says the question is even stronger. He said, even if you look at the supernal spheres, the supernal manifestations, it says in Pasach Eliyahu that Eir and Seif, that the infinite light itself, is not even close to the Midos. It's so far from the emotive attributes. That's why it says Elo v'loilo midoiso. It says there's a pasuk that says B'chol korein dirsh mikar v'alekin v'chol koreinu olav. So the rabbi says Elo v'loilo midoiso. That the prayer is returning to Hashem, returning to the Ein Sof, not to the Midas. Which means The Ein Sof that is enclosed in the supernal manifestations is way above the spheres themselves. And this what we discussed about the teaching of the Arizal in Eitz Chaim. He writes there that Ein Sof, the infinite light, shines in Keser closeness, and so too Chochmah, Kiruv, meaning they are close to each other. It's like a friend giving a friend, they are close. And then when Ein Sof shines in Bina, it's already Berichuk, someone distant from you. And then when the Ein Sof shines into Zeranpin, it's through a Chalon. Chalon is a window, meaning there's more contraction, there's more limitations, already much more condensed. And then when the Ein Sof shines in Bria, it's called Nekev. It threw a little. In Bina it's through a Chaloin, and then in Zeranpin, in the emotive attributes, it's through a Nekev, which is a little dot, a little hole. And then when there's from Atzilus to Bria, revelation from Atzilus that goes into Bria, it's already through a partition, called Parsa, through a Parsa. So the whole point of this discussion is to tell us how we are distant from Hashem. If we are so far from Him, the question remains, and it gets even stronger, how can we create a response from above? Who are we to create that response from above? We know that it happens. The question is why? If we're so far removed, how can we do that? A minister in the government, he makes some kind of a change. A governor decides to change the face of a town. He wants a town to be a better town, so he fixes the roads. He encourages builders and developers to come to town. He gives them concessions, and he changes the face of the town. So fine, it's a minister. He can allocate some of the budget for that specific town, and he can change things around. But when a little guy, a commoner, creates such change, it's a big deal. It's a big to do. That's a novelty. You say, how this guy did it? Not saying that it's impossible, but saying that it's wondrous that a little guy can do it, and now do it 1 billion times more when you're dealing with godliness. Who are we, physical beings with animalistic soul, to create a response from above? So much so that we say that we are according to the teaching of the Mizritch Magid and the Alter and the Baal Shem Tov, Hashem Tzilcho, Hashem is your shadow. Wherever you go, He goes. Everything that happens from above, you are creating it. Mimcha is from you. It's not happening despite you, despite of what meaning it's not happening as a coincidence, meaning it's already decided. It's decided. Everything happens from above, and you are just a pawn here. That's not what the Mizritch Magid said. Mizritch Magid is telling us that we are affecting everything that happens from above, meaning that we are the Bala boss. In a way, we are the making the decision of how tomorrow is going to look like and how today is going to look like.
Brahma said in Hilchos Shuvah that the world was created for each person.
Said Bishvil in the I can say the word was created for me. Speaking about the importance of every individual, of understanding the importance of Torah and mitzvahs, of what he can accomplish as a neshama b'guf, as a soul in a physical body. But the chidush that what Mizrach Magid is telling us is completely changing it's a game changer. That you can determine your day by your actions. For example, is a famous story that when the Alter Rebbe was on the run, and it was a few minutes before his neshama left his body, the Tzemach Tzedek was with him. So Tzemach Tzedek was davening, but it was mincha, davening ma'ariv. He knew that this is it. So he davened very long. It was melancholy, a state of atzvus. So you can say atzvus in a tzaddik, but despondency. And at the end of his davening, the Alter Rebbe told him, the Rebbe waited for him, and he told him that you should know that everything that, the way you feel, you're creating the same response from above. And that's why the Mizrach Magid, that's why the Tzemach Tzedek's, we can say motto or logo was Tracht gut mit sein gut. Bless you. Tracht gut mit sein gut. What's the idea of Tracht mit sein gut?
It will be good.
Is think good, it will be good. I mean, you're creating the good by thinking good. So we're still left with a question: what's the kesher? What's the connection with us and the upper ones? That so much so that we can create an effect. So especially you get to Sukkot. Sukkot is a holiday that is determined by the sages. So you have revelations that are happening in Sukkot. Who decides on those revelations to take place? If you look at everything, spiritually, everything that happens in Sukkot, it happens only on the 15th, when the rabbis decided the 15th is the 15th.
Right, when they had the Bezdin.
Right, the sanctification of the moon takes place on this and this date, and according to that, 15 days later would be Sukkot. So Sukkot is a Yom Tov revelation of the Makifim, whatever, all the different things that are happening in Sukkot spiritually. So meaning they were decided by the rabbis. Again, a human being generates those revelations. If you look at the top of Ches, it says, when it comes to the holiday of Sukkot, through Bezdin, down here. Koivim. Koivim means that they're deciding. The day of the 15th, everything that has to do with Sukkot is being aroused from above and comes down. This, for example, the schach. What is the revelation of the schach? What does schach do? So it says schach is compared to the Ketores of Yom Kippur. What happened to the Ketores of Yom Kippur? What is that? The avodah of Yom Kippur, one of the main things that was done in Yom Kippur, say even the primary thing of Yom Kippur, was the Kohen God will take the Ketores and brings it inside the Holy of Holies.
Right.
Right?
We read that yesterday. We learned it, we said it yesterday in the Talmud.
Right. Shochat velokach, but the bottom line, his main thing was the Ketores. And the Ketores, even in general, during the year, was one of the most wanted services in the Beis HaMikdash. The power of the Ketores, you can even
You're rich, I think, isn't
it was making the Kohanim rich, but it was revealed to us primarily by Moshe Rabbeinu, that he received the secret from Malach HaMoves, the angel of death, in Gan Eden. 40 days that he was there, after he argued with the angels why he should, and he won the argument why the Torah should be given to us. It says, Matanis lokach, Matanis ba'odom lokach, Matanis lokach ba'odom, Shavisa Shevi, you captured. So Shevi, they say Shimon Bar Yochai, and say that he received the secret from the Malach HaMoves. So who used it? Aaron HaKohen. It says that he made the El Magifa.
I know, with after Korach. After
Right.
the thing with Korach.
So he ran and he's able to stop the Magifa.
Right,
And then Pinchas used it again with the incident with the Shittim over there by Shittim, right? That the Cosby and Zimri, the whole story with the Midianites.
Right.
Right? So also it stopped the Magifa. So the main thing was in Kippur was the Ketores. What did the Ketores do? It says V'chisa anana Ketores asakaperes. So the Ketores was made in such a way that it would go straight up like a post, and it would cover the ceiling of the Holy of Holies, right?
Right. So now
So-
we're going to say the Skach is similar.
We not saying it. The Chassidus tells us.
Okay, Chassidus is telling us, okay.
So he says, Shebischach HaSukkah, in line 5, Shebischach HaSukkah nimshach u'mizgale anan HaKteres. It says that Schach reveals the inyan of Kteres, the Yom HaKippurim. Shazeh nemar ki be'onon niro al HaKaperes. It says that be'onon, with a cloud, I will be revealed on the Kaperes. What is the Kaperes? Kaperes is the lid that covers the Oren. There's Paroiches, the curtain, and there's Kaperes, is the lid that covers the ark. So it says, Kibonon Eroe, it says, who is going to be seen? So it's Eroe Batzmusi, my essence is going to be revealed. Revelation of Atzmus. אחר כך זה נמשך פנימיוס. It says afterwards that revelation of Hashem's essence is drawn down, b'pnimius, in an inner way, penetrates the person, permeates him, permeates the world. How do we take Atzmus and bring it in? So he says through the rule of an esrog, al yedei netilas dalad minim, taking the dalad minim, bringing it in. ועל ידי זה נעשה גילה השמחה בזמן שמחתנו לשמיעת שמחתנו. And that brings the revelation of Simcha in Zman Simchasenu. In general, Sukkot is called Zman, the time of our joy. And Shmini Atzer Simchasenu, then the Simcha is even greater. ויובן על פי המבוא במאמר חג הסוכות תר"ש ל'. Now the Rebbe is referencing to a mimer that was said in 1870.
Reverend Marash.
Yeah, by Rebbe Marash. Dibur matchil lovin sherish inyan makifin debino shimshach madasuk. Says we need to understand this mimer is speaking about the revelations of Sukkot, the spiritual revelations of Sukkot. Everybody knows they say makifim in Sukkot. There is makifim, the surrounding power, because it's the only mitzvah. Mitzvah of Sukkot is the only mitzvah that encompasses you. Every fiber of your body, is doing a mitzvah. You're in the sukkah. You put tefillin, your hand is putting tefillin, your head is putting tefillin. What about your legs, your stomach? They're not doing the mitzvah of tefillin. But in the sukkah, every inch of your body is doing the mitzvah of sukkah. Right? That's why it's a mitzvah to spend as much time as you can in the sukkah. Dibur amatchil lov in shereshim makifim. Makifim the bina shimshochim al yedei sukkah. Says there's makifim of bina that are drawn down through the sukkah. Shemevi Shom Maimor Eitz Chaim. So the Rebbe Marash brings a teaching from the Eitz Chaim. She'ensev mer bekeser uvechochem bekiruv mokum v'en berichuk mokum. וזה רק מדחל ומחוז נקר מצוזו לציר הסיר על the pass. So he brings what we just discussed before, the teaching of the Eitz Chaim that Ein Sof shines in Keser with closeness, in Chochmah with closeness, in Bina in from a distance, from afar, and then it goes to the emotive attributes through a window, and then it goes to Bina is from afar. The emotive attributes is through Chaloin, through a window, and then from Atzilus to Bria is through a nekev, through a hole, and then from there and on it's through a pass. From Bria to Atzilus to Bria is already a pass, so there is already a partition, screen. Okay, so the Rebbe Marash brings it in his Maimer in 1870. And he explains Love in Kol Zeh, to understand all of the above. So what does it mean when you're dealing with Hashem, dealing with the above, spirituality? What does it mean? Mala mata, close, kiruv richuk, close, far, higher, lower. What does it mean? Is there anything for Hashem that is far, and there's certain things that are close to Him? What does it mean?
He's always there.
Yeah, so He's close to everybody.
Right. I mean, regardless of.
So what is the teaching of the Arizal in Eitz Chaim, that this is Hashem is giving to Keser in Bekiruv, Ein Sof is giving to Keser, is communicating with Keser, Bekiruv, and with Chachma Bekiruv, and Bina is already Richuk. What's Richuk? Well, what do you mean? It's far from Bina. So he says, Love in Kol Zeh, to understand all of the above, Tzarich Love Mashach Lamala in Kiruv Mokim Richuk Mokim. Chero Lo Shach Lamala Gedr Mokim. It says when you deal with Lamailo, the Chero, seemingly there's no such a thing as Mokim. There's no such a thing as space. World is limited to time and space, but the upstairs is not limited to time and space. So there's no mokim. There's such a thing as mokim. It's a place. Place is limitation. Upstairs, from Hashem's perspective, there's no limitations. So there's no mokim. If you can be in 1,000 different places at the same time, and no place is far from you, you're present in every place at any given time, what is mokim for you? There's no place. Imagine you have the ability to transport yourself. So you have a house in San Diego, and you have a house in Vermont, and you transport yourself in a split of a second. Where do you live? And I'll ask you, where do you live? You have 100 houses all over the world, and you transport yourself to every house at a split of a second. So where do you live? You could say, well, I don't know. I live everywhere.
Yeah.
I don't have a specific place where I live, because wherever I want to be, I'm there. Which we have that concept with machshava, right? Because it says that where you are, where your mind is this is really where you're at. Machshava. So if I'm thinking that I'm in my house, I'm in my house, I'm not here. Physically I'm here, but my mind is somewhere else. Right? The concept of Libi Bamizrach is the statement Libi Bamizrach. My heart is in the east, meaning that they were always in Machshava. They were with the Eretz Yisrael in Yerushalayim. So a person daven, he has to think, he has to face toward Yerushalayim, right? If he's in Eretz Yisrael toward Yerushalayim, if Yerushalayim toward the Beis Hamikdash. So we'll stop here, but when the Nakuda is, we have to understand. We're left with a question: what is mokim for Hashem? And if we understand it, maybe we can understand the statement of the Eitz Chaim. What does it mean, Korev and Rochek? We say it also in the Motzei Shabbos. We say V'yitan lecha. The bracha, we say v'yitan lecha. So it says shalom shalom larochik v'lakorev. It says shalom to the one that is near and to the one that is far. So we have to understand what is near and far from Hashem's perspective. Why Chochmah is close, Keser is close, and Bina suddenly it's far.
Maybe
Okay.
you could bring back the Shulchan Aruch and the gate